welcome back to the Kent Morning Show live on KMTV.
Next, ahead of a brand new episode of the Kent Film Club premiering on KMTV this evening, we're joined now by the show's presenter, Chris Deasy.
And there's a lot to discuss too in the world of film, including his new take on the Mission Impossible film and a famous birthday. And if you now know, it's the perfect time to be watching Dunkirk.
That's right. Well, Chris, thank you very much for joining us. Good morning to you.
Hi, good morning both.
You've now seen Mission Impossible. We've been talking about it for a few weeks. What was your take on it?
Well, I've seen it twice, even though yesterday was the official launch date. I saw a preview screening on Monday. I was so impressed. It's got a very different vibe to the first one. The first one had all these set pieces, and I thought, how are they going to match it? And actually, it goes deeper into the characters, and you kind of feel here that, especially, we've been talking about AI quite a lot on the programme over recent weeks, and it's this real battle. I mean, the way I would look at it is that it's like all those films in the 90s about the end of the world, like Waterworld, or we had Contact with the aliens, and Armageddon with the meteorite, with the asteroid coming into the Earth. Here, the threat is from artificial intelligence, and it's the same tropes there about will the world be wiped out? And of course, it's one man who, and we know who that is, who has the power maybe to try and stand down and stand up to the threat posed by the entity. It is a gripping ride. It's 2 hours 50 minutes, and I did see it twice. I suspect there'll be a few more viewings in the coming weeks, and not once did my attention wander.
Well, it's fascinating, isn't it, with AI being the sort of villain at the moment. I'm sure we've seen it across lots of different films at the moment, TV series as well. Is that the kind of alien of today, do you think?
I think it is, because in that run-up to the year 2000, there was that sense that somehow the world is at peril, end of days and Arnold Schwarzenegger, lots of biblical allusions as well. But actually, this film is quite similar. The idea of, it is written, but is it written? What is it about human destiny? The Final Destination film, Bloodlines, which has also come out this week, deals with some of those same issues. The idea of, what is human autonomy? What power do we have to forge our own future? And is humanity at risk by the risk in the case of Mission Impossible of machines? So it kind of feels it's the same tropes that we saw decades earlier. But yes, AI, and of course because we can't see it. When the asteroid is coming from outer space, we know it's going to hit the Earth. But here the threat is even more insidious because we can't see it, but it controls all our technologies, and in the case of this film, nuclear weapons.
Now, you said that you've not only watched it once, but twice, and potentially might be going again. Did you recognise any places from Kent, maybe? Did you see any? Have you been there as well, most importantly?
Do you know? Well, of course, one of my reasons for watching it over and over is to see the Chatham Dockyard. And the thing is, of course, it's not going to say Chatham. Actually, there is a scene, I won't give it away, but you see them walking out of Trafalgar Square Underground Station. You're thinking, don't think that actually exists. But again, of course, it's not going to signpost Chatham Dockyard, but it's well worth seeing. There might be a scene, I think, where I spotted it.
Oh, really? Oh, that's interesting, because, with a lot of these, especially Hollywood blockbuster films, they tend to go to these locations, maybe because they're a little bit cheaper than in Hollywood. But, coming here, and they like to sort of cover it up a bit. But if people who are, aware of Chatham Dockyard and have been there lots of times, like we have, then maybe it's one for them to go to look out for.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, of course, since being on this show, we talk about location shooting quite a lot. And I think that what actually stands out in this film is that it really has that feel that they're on location. We've often talked about the whole green screen threat, but actually it's ironic for a film that is so intent on trying to say, humanity has the power, the wherewithal to face down its enemy. But it actually goes all the way on this and actually shows real set pieces with Tom Cruise doing his own stunts. I mean, there may be some jiggery pokery, I'm sure that there is, but I was certainly taken on for the ride. I couldn't see the joints. The editing by Krista McQuarrie, is the director of the film, because he did The Usual Suspects many years ago, is phenomenal, because you have these cutting to earlier films in the franchise, and of course also within the film itself, they're going forward, they're going backwards, and it helps us piece together who the different people are, and there's a sense that it's the last one in the series, it's the 7th film, but it also feels that all the elements are coming together. I thought it was spectacular.
Well, it sounds like it's really stuck to its core, Tom Cruise being known for still doing all of his own stunts, and some even saying now that this could be his final ride. What do you think about that?
Well, who was it that famously said, "Never say never again"? Sean Connery, and look what he did. So I wouldn't be surprised. I can't. I mean, to be fair, he's significantly older than Roger Moore was in A View to a Kill, and also Cary Grant in North by Northwest. But Tom Cruise, to me, looks just like he did 30 years ago. So I can't imagine that this is the end of the action thriller that he's so good at.
Well, let's move on now to talk about something slightly different. It's Arthur Conan Doyle's birthday today. Of course, the author of Sherlock Holmes, another film that was shot. This is the Robert Downey Jr. One from 2009. It was another film shot at the historic dockyard Chatham. What do you make of stories like this that take characters that we know so well and reproduces them on the big screen?
Well, in recent years, we've also seen various twists with films with different ethnicities or different genders. So films like this or stories like this have proven themselves to stand the test of time. There's a universality to these. And you saw with, there's the 20-year-old Jane Austen adaptation of Pride and Prejudice is out in the cinemas again at the moment with a cast that we now recognise, like Carey Mulligan and Rosalind Pike, who was like when they were much younger. I think that these stories here, provided that they meet the needs of the age in which they're made, provided that they have that contemporary sort of currency. I mean, this is very different. I mean, I don't think Arthur Conan Doyle could ever have imagined the Jude Law and the Robert Downey Jr. way of doing things. It's a very balletic, very almost like kickboxing type style, very action movie version, of course, partly filmed here as well. So I think that these stories have longevity. They're not stuck in time. True Grit, the way that Jeff Bridges' version, very different from the one of John Wayne. So these stories, I think, will always be made, and they have to meet the needs of the audience of the age in which they're written.
And not only was it filmed in the Chatham dockyard, but it's also known for having the first computer-generated character. And it's something we're seeing quite a lot. Obviously, today, released in the UK, it's a new release of the Lilo and Stitch movie, which is really exciting. But what do you think about the growth of CGI from when it first started to now? We're seeing whole movies using it.
Yeah, and I think, ironically, the Mission Impossible film is almost sort of, although it undoubtedly uses technology, it almost wants to go the opposite way. And I think it's how it's used. I think that sometimes if you're watching a film and you kind of feel somebody's made this on their computer, then it doesn't feel like something you'd want to watch as many times as I have a certain film that we keep mentioning here. But I think that technology, when used in service of good acting, good choreography, good cinematography, good directing, then it has the power to last. I think the danger is when it's thought, we'll make this on the cheap. I mean, there is still a part of me, I mean, in a very imminent edition of Kent Film Club, I'll have someone talking about seeing Ben-Hur in the cinema when it came out in 1959. That's the sort of film you can return to because it was filmed on location, the crowds are real, and you know that there was a lot of anguish, no doubt, in the making of that. And I think that's why people are attracted to movies. Do you really want to watch a movie when you kind of feel you could have done it yourself or a version of it on your smartphone?
Well, speaking of, sticking to that realism, sticking to sort of true life, we can turn our attentions to Dunkirk because obviously it was a huge film. Christopher Nolan came out, you'll know the year.
It was in 2017, in July 2017.
Great, and I'm a big fan of Christopher Nolan myself, but of course this week is the 85th anniversary of the Operation Dynamo, the Dunkirk evacuation. Is that a film that people should be looking back on today? Does it sort of capture that piece of history well?
Well, and actually that addresses the earlier question really well, because it's that way of the technology that's available to filmmakers like Christopher Nolan. Films like Inception, you think of the way in which he makes these really intricate, almost like clockwork films. They have so many different nuances. But applying that to a war and making it more relatable, it's almost like bringing out the drama. I mean, Christopher Nolan's very good at that. They're dramatic films, but the acting is always top-notch in there. So I kind of feel that it means that people like me, who don't necessarily have a very strong military background, who don't necessarily know all the ins and outs of all the episodes in the Second World War, can watch a film like Dunkirk and kind of say, this is what my grandparents and many people will have, their ancestors ancestors who were out there on the beach who remember and be aware that this is, you know, family history. That was really brought to light, and it was a very, you know, anguish-inducing film.
Was this a film that you watched yourself?
Yeah, I can't remember it fully, but I remember growing up we used to watch those movies, and I thought it was really interesting you mentioned history there. Do you feel like movies play a part in keeping history alive as well?
Yeah, because how many times do we often watch a film and that becomes almost the standard bearer? I mean, I used to teach on biblical epics, and often, of course, we watch those great films. I mentioned Ben-Hur, I mentioned, you know, The Greatest Story Ever Told, but the way that we see all those biblical characters is often told through movies, and we have our sense of, you know, this character is more believable than another. What happens when you see films that are set, for example, in the first century with American accents or English accents? You know, Monty Python's Life of Brian was a good sort of critique of those sort of approaches. So often film is a way into historical questions. And that's the primary access, gateway, if you like, into the past.
I think what it was for me with Dunkirk is, yeah, and I think it is a brilliant telling of what happened. But when Harry Styles suddenly shows up, I don't know if I'm taken out of it, because he did such a brilliant job on that film. It was his first acting role, I believe. But I don't know if just because of his star power, it kind of made you just go, oh, that's Harry Styles. Is that kind of the trouble that directors have when they put a big star in a film like this?
Absolutely, because sometimes when you're watching a film, you're almost taken out. You know those films sometimes when characters reference real-life movie characters, and you're thinking, but you're a movie character, you know, you're an actual actor yourself. Suddenly, like Michelle Pfeiffer will get a reference or something, and you're thinking, well, no, hang on a minute. But, you know, it's almost you're taken out of that world. It will happen, yes.
Chris, just very quickly, we've got about 10 seconds. Film Club, well, who's coming up?
We've got Marion Stewart. We've also got Dirk Benedict coming up. So we've got some amazing guests and films. In the case of Marion Stewart, going back all the way to 1942, a film that she saw when it came out.
Chris, thank you very much. We'll have plenty more on the Ken Morning Show after this.
See you soon.